just like that, we are back. It is week 3. Welcome to the 4th and 1 podcast. As always, we're coming to you live from Lancaster, Lidditz, and Leestown, Pennsylvania. It's your home for college football and the worstest podcast on the interweb. My name is Simeon. I go by AKA. As always, we are with my brother from the same mother, Captain Boring himself, Micaiah, and our CFB insider, Roberto. We are all happy to be here. Guys, I gave up very quickly on my college football Saturday due to having a wedding and Michigan just absolutely looking like a high school varsity team against an NFL team. How was your Saturdays?
Saturday was great. Outside of the noon, or really that one game, there were other games in the noon window that were excellent.
Yeah.
3:30 games were excellent. Nighttime games were sorta good, sorta not. Some were good, some were blowouts. So yeah, good all around here, despite the Michigan loss.
Robert, how's it going for you?
You know, can't complain. I mean, you can't complain, I guess. You can complain all we want about Michigan, but it is what it is. But overall, Saturday was good. Games were good. They were good at different slots throughout the day. So, you can't be too picky. Kind of is what it is.
Yeah, I have my application open for fandom now. Very disappointed in Michigan, obviously, for the year. Obviously, I have to kind of live with it. Being a Michigan fan until they eventually, in 3 years, they fire Sharon Moore and move on to the next guy. Maybe they'll resurrect like a little clone Jim Harbaugh, maybe bring him back. Who knows? It's going to be interesting one way or another. Are you just both on your phone or are you frozen?
No, I'm still here. I'm not
okay.
frozen.
I'm just making sure I didn't lose you guys as I was going off.
Both of you were frozen. I was like, wait.
All right. We got a full action-packed slate podcast for you as we're going into week 3. This is the last week, basically, until we're in conference games. We had some fun games last week. We're going to play it a little bit differently than we normally do. Because I got bored last week and I want to talk less. Say less, fam. We're going to play chill or panic. It's a nice game that we have going into week 2 that we totally will not overreact to teams' 2 weeks performances after one of the most turbulent off seasons in college football history. Chill or panic, very simple state. I'm going to give the guys a team and they have to tell me if their fan base should chill. It's fine, or panic. Hit the button, hit the ejector, pull the parachute, break glass in case of emergencies. And we already talked a little bit about it. Micaiah, we'll start with you. Robert, after him. Michigan, should we chill or should we panic?
Depends what side of the fan base you're on. I'm going to say chill. Because, yes, the loss sucked. Yes, it exposed a lot. But let's just remember, I said at best, this is a 9-3 ball club. At best, we might now be looking at 8-4, 7-5. That's okay. We literally are rebuilding our whole team from coaching staff all the way up through, except maybe that defense. So for right now, until it shows digression on a week-to-week basis, after one loss to the second best team in college football, my opinion, I'm going to say chill.
Roberto.
I'm going to go ahead and just say hit the panic button. The reason I'm saying panic is because Michigan has about as good as an offense as a lackluster high school football team right now. And we're very one-dimensional. And that dimension is not very big. We're also very content with staying with Davis Warren. So, I mean, he's got to be the guy. And whether we get better or what. Defensively, we went from probably the best defense to having borderline one of the worst defenses within one game, which was very, I think, eye-opening because we just been on this high horse that our defense is going to be this lockdown, stud defense.
I mean, that's a little bit of an overreaction.
Not really. We
I
have
mean,
two...
we are.
No,
We
no,
did
no, no,
not.
no, no, no,
We
no,
did
no.
not
My
go
turn,
to the
not yours.
worst defense.
We went.
It was
guys
pretty
are
bad.
frozen, and it's weird right now because I'm just talking to Micaiah making kissy face. But okay, these are back. All we've heard all off season, Michigan, 2 absolute stud, the best defensive tackles in college football. Neither of them were around. They might have been on a bus to wherever our first away game is going to be because that's where they probably were. Will Johnson, we had what, 3 dropped, should have been interceptions. Makari Page, I can tell you where he wasn't. He wasn't on the correct page.
Nice.
Our defense was so just discombobulated bad. Texas did whatever they wanted, whenever they wanted. Essentially, that entire game, they ran the ball down our throat. They played Michigan football better than Michigan played Michigan football. That's why I want to panic, because if we can't, you guys are frozen again. This is the most bizarre thing ever.
We can still hear you. Don't worry.
Okay. But if we want to be anything remotely close to a playoff contender, like, we got to get a hell of a lot better and fast.
I think that's fair. One of the things that the commentator, who was Joe Klatt, sorry, had to remember what channel that was on, said that Texas reminded him a lot of 2023 Michigan, and I think that's enough said. Michigan takes on Arkansas State, probably on the Big Ten or Peacock or something, at 12 on Saturday. Next team to chill or panic, fan bases. Notre Dame, bad loss, very bad loss to Northern Illinois. Micaiah.
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and hit the panic button, but it's not just because they lost to Northern Illinois. It's because this is now a pattern of doing this. They dropped a game to Marshall 2 years ago now, or maybe that was even last year.
That was 2 years ago.
Last year, it was kind of up and down, no offense. Why I'm hitting the panic button is what I just said. No offense once again this year. They brought in Mike Babcock. They brought in Riley Leonard from Duke. Upgrade at the quarterback. Upgrade at the offensive coordinator, and yet they produced a total of 289 total yards of offense. You got outgained by a group of 5 team. They had 102 more yards of offense than you did. You had 2 turnovers. You had 1 more first down. They also crushed you in time of possession, beat you by 9 minutes there. Absolutely time to hit the panic button. Marcus Freeman's seat has to be heating up, to say the least. So I am panicking if I'm a Notre Dame Fighting Irish fan.
Robert.
I'm kind of on the fence where the fan base should be. Obviously, you should panic because you lost to Northern Illinois, which is absolutely atrocious. That is not something that should ever happen, especially for a program like Notre Dame. But then you look at their schedule and you're like, listen, we might only lose 1 or 2 games and still be in the playoff race here, because USC is their only other tough opponent other than Louisville. So I think for right now, I'm just going to tell them just to chill unless they lose to Purdue. Then, I mean, you panic all your way to the bank, but I guess for right now, chill, because Florida State turned out to be nothing, and USC is the best team on their schedule, and that's the very last game of the year. So,
all right, that's it.
Really.
Okay, half and half. So, thanks, Micaiah. All right, next team on the list is Oregon. Had another rough nail biter, skin of the teeth win this weekend. Panic or chill?
I am going to say panic a little bit, and that's just because a lot of people, including myself, thought that this was this Oregon Duck team was right up there with the Georgia, the Texas, the Ohio State in terms of national championship contender. They bring in Dylan Gabriel, and I forgot his first name there for a second, and you just thought that things were going to be hunky-dory and click right away. What is turning out to be, Dan Lanning is supposed to be this defensive guru. However, in the 2 seasons at Oregon, or this is his second season, in big games, his defense hasn't shown up. and he's been outgained so far this season. His offenses are good. They had almost 500 yards last week. Again, they had almost 400 yards this week. 2 turnovers. He just makes dumb calls, and I'm just going to panic because this is supposed to be a national championship contending team. Dan Lanning isn't coaching right. He's going for it on his own side of the field. He's not making the correct decisions. They're turning the ball over. They just don't look tightened up early in the season, in which you hope that a national championship contending team would look early in the season out of conference. So I'm going to panic, but just a little bit.
Robert?
I'm going to go ahead and say don't panic, because even though your games are close, you're still winning. Win's a win. Is it concerning that you're giving up the points you're giving up to, not especially teams like Idaho, Boise State? But I'm going to say not to panic, because you're 2-0. You're all you can really do is, Micaiah says you would expect them to be a lot tighter and a lot more in tune with each other. And, by the time they actually face their first big, tough opponent, which is going to end up being Ohio State on October 12th, by that time you should have your ships all lined and ready to roll. And if you don't have them together by that point, then you should start panicking. But until then, I think you're okay. You're winning. As long as you're winning, you're fine.
Another team who played
just real quick, I want to shout out Ashton Genty. He's the running back for Boise State. He's currently averaging 10 yards a carry. He has almost 500 yards and 9 touchdowns in 2 games. So he had another 3 touchdowns and 180 yards on Saturday versus Oregon. So Ashton Genty, early Heisman front runner through 2 weeks, I would say.
If he keeps that up. Oregon, Saturday, 3:30 p.m. Eastern, takes on Oregon State. That's the Apple Cup, the Apple Bowl.
Civil War.
Apple is Washington State, which also
bingo.
This weekend. Apologies, West Coast fans. Another MAC troubled school this weekend. Apparently, the MAC championship will be Northern Illinois versus Bowling Green. They played the Penn State Nittany Lions. NCAA called this, by the way, and Penn State did not look like a pro team. It looked like a Division I team through the first, probably half, at least first quarter, struggling to come back and win against Penn State. Micaiah, James Franklin was on my to get fired by week 6 list. We talked about this a little bit. Seat hotter, chill, panic. What are we doing?
I'm going to say, don't panic. You're 2-0. You walked into West Virginia in a rowdy environment, a rain delay, and you look like the better team, and you kind of dominated West Virginia. You come home and you sleepwalk the first half, but then your defense buttons down, only allows 3 points in the second half, and the 3 points was in the last minute and 30 of the game, where Bowling Green got within 7 there. So I'm just going to say chill. You had 2 interceptions as well on the day. Just, again, kind of the come down. Bowling Green's a lot better. Yes, they did they sleepwalk? Absolutely. But they still had 440 yards of offense. They only had 1 turnover. They did lose the time of possession, but they were hitting big play after big play after big play. I'm not panicking unless if this becomes a pattern, and I don't think it's going to become a pattern. So everyone in Happy Valley, I would say just chill.
Yeah, I mean, you're 2-0. You won your games. Was it close against Bowling Green? Yeah, absolutely. Should it have been? Absolutely not. But your team, this is actually a good thing for Penn State, because it made them play from behind. They were down 17 to 3 or 17-7 at one point. So it was actually a good thing for them. But I wouldn't panic, because again, they're October 12th. That's their next big game. So I wouldn't panic until that point.
And this Connor Bazelak for the Falcons of Bowling Green, he played at Missouri. So he played in big time environment. So it wasn't anything new. That's what you're going to get with the transfer portal. You're going to get these lower MAC teams with kind of Power 4 quarterbacks, and they're going to walk into environments and be able to handle it much better than what a normal MAC quarterback would. So
Penn
no
State
panic.
has the week off. This is a bye week for them, from what I can tell on a quick googly goo. I'm just confirming that. Yep, bye week for them this week, so they are off and will hopefully be taking the time to re-up. Another upset, kind of, I guess technically by the numbers. Panic or not panic. Kansas losing to Illinois.
This is a good one, Simeon. I miss Kansas being on here. Yeah, this is a little panic. You lost a non-conference game. That's fine. That won't hurt you in the long run in terms of trying to win the Big 12 and get an automatic bid. But Jaylon Daniels turned the ball over 4 times. 3 interceptions, 1 fumble, never looked comfortable. When he is right, this offense is go, go, go. But when he is not right, it kind of gets stuck in the mud. They beat Lindenwood 48-3, but then against an Illinois team that's stingy but not great, they only put up 17 points. So I'm going to say a little panic because I don't like all the turnovers early in the season against a Power 4 school.
I mean, I'm just going to play devil's advocate here. I'm going to go ahead and say not to panic. Listen, you lost to Illinois. Believe it or not, Illinois is a sneaky good Big Ten team that gives Michigan, Ohio State, Penn State troubles all the time. You played the game on the road. Like Micaiah said, it was a non-conference loss, which is totally fine. It was week 2, which is totally fine. You still have your own destiny. The turnovers are an absolute issue, but I just wouldn't panic at this point.
They take UNLV on Friday, 7 p.m. In Kansas City. Actually, they're in Child Mercy's Park, Kansas City. Okay, Auburn. Hugh Freeze, panic, not panic. They lost to Cal, which I will remind people who might have seen Paul Feinbaum, the SEC apostle himself, said there is no chance in hell that Cal was going to walk into Auburn, Alabama and upset Auburn. And they did just that, upsetting Auburn. This one kind of went under the radar, but panic or not panic?
Yeah, so this is a panic. Because Peyton Thorne needs to send a big thank you basket to Mel Tucker, because that one season with Peyton Thorne had with Kenneth Walker in the backfield, he made him the starting quarterback. Peyton Thorne is not a SEC starting quarterback. He's not a Power 4 starting quarterback. He's not even the 2 Nimrods over there still holding up the Tupac conference over there. He's not a Notre Dame starting quarterback. He's not an independent starting quarterback. He is so bad. And the fact that this is the best you got, Auburn, it's sort of deal. It's kind of like Michigan, except, a little bit. I think Davis Warren is better than Peyton Thorne. He had 4 interceptions and 165-yard passing. Are you kidding me? Panic, panic, panic. If this is the best you got, and that's the reason I'm panicking. I think the outlook of Auburn to finish this season and maybe even next when they move off of this character clown that they got at quarterback is very high. I believe in Hugh Freeze, but Peyton Thorne, absolutely. If I'm an Auburn fan, panic button. This is the best you got. Awful.
Yeah, all you can do is panic with Auburn at this moment. These are the kind of games that are going to get Hugh Freeze fired. But you can't lose to Cal. I mean, granted, yeah, Cal's 2-0, but it's Cal. And they came across country to your place and beat you. There's no reason to be losing at home to teams like Cal, and you're setting up for this season to be an absolute disaster because your schedule is not friendly at all. Go ahead.
I didn't know this was at Jordan Hare. You're absolutely right. You did this at home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the worst. Like if this is an away game, I'll give you a little bit
Yeah,
because it's a big flight, cross country, whatever. But they came to your place and won. That's
yeah.
an issue.
They dominated them in time of possession, 35-24. Auburn had 5 turnovers, didn't have even 300 yards of offense, lost the total yards, the first down, literally every major statistical category. Hugh Freeze, just honestly, go to anyone else. Go to a true freshman that's never seen game action. Go grab the high schooler down the street in Alabama. He's got to be better than Peyton Thorne. It's got to be.
Has to be, gotta be. Auburn has New Mexico at home.
Which they lost
7:30
to last year, right?
New Mexico? Robert?
Didn't Auburn lose to, or was that 2 years ago? Auburn lost.
New Mexico State.
Oh, okay.
Whose
And someone
quarterback,
else.
offensive coordinator, and head coach are now at Vanderbilt, who is 2-0. Raise your hand real quick. We're taking a left turn. Raise your hand real quick. Vanderbilt 2-0, second week of the football season. Anybody had that on their bingo card?
No, not on my bingo card. Expected them to lose week 1.
Yeah, no. They also have another game, and I don't forget who. That's how the week works. But they have another game that should be a win for them, I guess. Who knows? Okay, Alabama has a hard time with the boys from Miami. USF this time, not the U. Is Alabama chill or panic?
That fan base is panicking a little bit because things don't look buttoned up. Kalen DeBoer kind of lets a little more rein on the leash, if it were, and lets the players, do things that Nick Saban won't do. They had 3 turnovers. They outgained. I'm going to say chill. Just everyone relax. That defense is still an SEC defense. They're always going to have good athletes there. They won time of possession. Yes, they did have 3 turnovers. That's the only reason they weren't really winning before the fourth quarter. They stopped turning the ball over in the fourth quarter, and they started scoring points. 28 points in the fourth quarter. So this game actually was it was a 13-14 game at the start and midway through the fourth quarter. Everyone chill. It's a new coaching staff. Again, you still have Jalen Milroe. Your defense is going to be all right. Just relax.
I actually don't know how you could panic when your first 2 games you scored 102 points.
Yeah.
No, 105.
Yeah.
And only gave up 16. I honestly don't know what it is about South Florida that gives Alabama issues. But yeah, I mean, just chill out. Like, you guys have nothing to worry about. Save your panicking for September 28th when you have a home game against Georgia. Which, I mean, I guess playing at Wisconsin could, maybe panic, possible trap game. Looking forward to Georgia next week. But I wouldn't panic. The team, they look good. They're fine.
At the worst on Saturday, Alabama's win probability at its worst was 78%. So no panic.
No panic down in Tuscaloosa. They take on, Wisconsin. They're the big noon kickoff game this weekend. Headed a little further north, Kentucky. Micaiah, you put this on the list. Panic or not panic? I wasn't expecting anything from Kentucky this year.
Yeah,
so you tell me.
It's a fan base that doesn't get talked about enough for how loyal they are to that football team, and that's really why I put them on here. And now Stoops is in here. Well, I mean, he's the longest tenured head coach in the SEC right now, so people were kind of looking at them at possible dark horse. They got that transfer from Georgia, Vandergriff, I believe his name is. They got worked over. So I'm going to panic a little. By South Carolina. They got worked over. And specifically, and I'll let Robert talk about him more because he more watched the game. They had under 200 yards of total offense and 2 turnovers. They got worked over by a true freshman edge rusher from South Carolina. South Carolina had to walk on the field with 1 player, and they beat Kentucky. I'm panicking mostly because you had under 200 yards of offense at home. On the road, South Carolina, not crazy environment, and all those drunken fans and whatever in South Carolina, absolutely. At home, in your place, when it's quiet on offense, you only produce 183 total offensive yards? Get out of here. I mean, this panic meter for me and Mike Stoops, got to be 7 or 8.
Bob.
Got to be 7 or 8.
Bob Stoops. Sorry.
Bob
Robert.
Stoops was the Oklahoma coach.
Oh, Mark Stoops. That's what you said.
Yeah. I mean, you got to panic because your offensive line literally looked like Colorado's. You gave up 5 sacks. But yeah, Dylan Stewart was at the freshman edge. He came off. He had a tackle for a loss. He had sacks. I mean, one guy just dominated the entire offensive line. Kentucky couldn't do anything. Like, if you can't protect your quarterback or even do anything to make it seem like you just know what you guys are doing, like, you are in trouble. He's only scored 6 points, and I think they were field goals. But there were 2 field goals, a 32 and a 39er field goal. So you got at least down close to the red zone. But
does anyone want to guess Brock Vandergrift's QBR for Saturday? I will even give you the stats to make this easy. He was 3 of 10 for 30 yards, 3 yards, a completion, and 1 interception.
Did he break 20?
What's the lowest it could be? Like,
it can,
possible.
The lowest possible is 0. It's a scale of 0 to 100.
Dude, he's got to be at like 15.
1.2.
Okay.
Oh,
that's about
I mean, that's why this panic meter, because again, why we are sitting here and saying Davis Warren, if that's the best, it's going to be a long season. Kentucky and then Auburn, they're in for much longer seasons if that's the best that they can put out, and especially Kentucky, because that did not look good on Saturday.
Ruh-roh, Raggy. That's what Micaiah says. Thank you. Kentucky takes on, I have it up here, Georgia. They have Georgia at home. They're 24-point home underdogs.
Boy, did I want to take Georgia in my lock this week. I couldn't pull that trigger.
Okay, Colorado, panic or not panic? Real. They got worked over by Robert's Lord and Savior Dylan Raiola. They didn't score a point until the 4th quarter, if I'm remembering correctly. Are we panicking or not panicking? And I'm glad you put this on the list, Micaiah.
Okay. First and foremost, this is the last time I'm talking about Colorado until they decide to commit to a running game, because I am not going to commit my time and effort to a coaching staff and a team that just refuses to actually play decent, balanced football. So this is the last time I'm talking about Colorado. Panic in Colorado. I think it's got to be, again, a 7 or 8 on the scale. They threw the ball 40 times. And it was awful. Shadur Sanders only throws to the right-hand side. He only looks for Travis Hunter. And then when Travis Hunter is open, he decides, nope, that's not deep enough, even though it's a 5-yard hitch on 1st and 10. Go ahead and throw it and get the 5 yards. Nope, got to look for something longer downfield, and then you give up a sack. Nebraska was daring Colorado to run the football. They would have 3 and 4-man boxes. Defensive linemen. That's it. Just 3 or 4 people against 5 people. And Colorado said, we're good. We'll just decide to throw the ball. Shadur finally looked like a HBCU level quarterback. Nebraska's defensive line looks excellent. This is more of a testament to how good Nebraska looks and how scary they look with a true freshman, and that would be Robert's Lord and Savior, Dylan Raiola. The fact that he hasn't sat for a year and he looks as comfortable as he does 2 games into the season, again, both at home, hasn't gone on the road yet, hasn't played big-time competition, is very impressive. Colorado's panic meter is way up. Nebraska fans, go ahead and sit in a tub of cool ice because you are cool, cool, cool.
Yeah, you have to. I mean, Colorado's panic. Like, you just have to panic because Colorado's bad, and we know they're bad. It's the media and everyone else who says that Colorado is this great team. Vegas is like, oh, there's still like a good odd for them to be like in the championship. This team ain't even going to sniff the playoffs. That offensive line cannot pass block worth a nickel, but it's all because they can't run the ball. Not because they can't run the ball, but because they choose not to run the ball. Any sort of run play. Their best player is Travis Hunter. Shedeur is not great. He is not great. Only when he plays against really bad defenses. But put the ball in his hand. Put it in Travis Hunter's hand. Run jet sweeps. It doesn't take a genius to look at it and go, wow, Shedeur can't throw his ass out of a paper bag right now.
Nice.
And when he does throw it, he's throwing it directly to a corner for a pick six. And he also can't stay off the ground. So what do we got to do to get Travis Hunter the ball, get people in space, and move? Get people moving. That's all they had to do. If you start running that ball, teams like Nebraska, they got to bring their safeties up. They got to, it makes the defense work a lot harder. Nebraska didn't have to work that hard. The three hardest guys were the nose tackle and the two defensive ends who just decided, you know what? We're just going to take over this game. Secondary, you take a seat. We don't need you until the fourth quarter.
They had 6 sacks on the night. If you take away, because sacks are counted as against the team's rushing in college football, which I don't agree with, but whatever. So if you take the sacks and Shedeur's negative 30 rushing yards out of it, Colorado ran the ball for 46 yards on 7, 11, 14 carries. If you leave the sacks in it, they ran the ball 22 times for 16 yards, 0.7 yards per carry. So until they start rushing for 100 yards consistently, and I'm going to say they have to rush for over 115 yards in 3 straight games before I will talk about Colorado again on this podcast.
Or at least run the ball more than 14 times.
Yeah, that too.
I don't care if they go a full game without scoring a touchdown or throwing a pass. But if they just run the damn ball, just run it.
Yeah.
Who knows what'll happen? Maybe you'll actually get somewhere.
Colorado goes to Fort Collins to take on Colorado State, that in-game rivalry where I'm pretty sure Colorado State will have some sick in-state rivalry where Colorado State will have some sick unis. Micaiah, another team on the list who was a blowout win this weekend. Our last team on the list, they beat Samford 45-7. It's Florida. Panic or chill?
Well, with how the way week 1 went, you are panicking. They're going to play Lagway, the freshman 5-star, little more. I think he's actually going to start this week. Who are they taking on this week, bud?
They are taking on Texas A&M.
They're taking on Texas A&M. So kind of big game. They're at home. So just speaking of this season and not Bailey Napier, not looking at the whole, just this season, I am panicked, but I'm only at a 6 or a 7. Yes, week 1 was bad, but maybe you just got curb stomped in week 1, and maybe Miami's actually really good, and maybe Cam Ward's just excellent, right? Okay, you came back and you blew out a really bad team, or an FCS level team. Done. If you go out and you beat A&M, or at least it's a 3-point loss where you look good and Lagway looks good, I'm actually going to kind of be back on the chill for Billy Napier. But at this point, I'm at a 6 on the panic meter for Florida.
I'm going to go ahead and panic for Florida. Congratulations, you beat a bad team. Win a game against somebody good. Make it actually seem like you guys want to play football. These guys got your ass handed to you against Miami. That game was over early. And then you went and beat Samford, and it's oh, well, now we can feel good because we won a game. It's yeah, you won a game. Congratulations. But it was Samford. Not Stanford. Samford.
Nice.
Which is worse.
Good enunciation there.
Yeah, you like that?
Yeah.
Connecticut. It's just
there's not one good football team in Connecticut. Not one.
Well,
that includes UMass.
Not one.
Just joshing. Florida takes on, like I said, Texas A&M 3:30 on ABC, and that kind of concludes our review segment here.
Are we going to do that every week?
Well, maybe it's possible.
Because that I enjoyed that actually.
Yeah,
That
we might.
that was nice.
I left a note because it's one of those situations where like I'd like to be able to tell a little bit of like a story, and I feel like just going back and forth every week doesn't necessarily tell a story. So
It also lets you check in on teams and let you,
yeah,
get it. Yeah. I like
we
it.
might here's for people who've listened this far, which is true fans. Spotify, YouTube, Instagram at Fourth and One Podcast. Everywhere at Fourth and One Podcast except for TikTok, Fourth and One. Go ahead and comment.
Fourth and One Pod.
Fourth and One Pod? Thank you, Micaiah. Would you
Every
prefer?
week.
Would you prefer a panic or chill next week, or a hype or overhyped next week? The inverse of this is this team overhyped? Are they correctly? Do they need to be hyped more?
It's sort of the same thing, but
drop us a comment down below. Well, no, this is like you need to be panicking. You need to fire your coach. The other one's like, hey, your guys are doing a lot better than.
Oh yeah.
Than you.
For sure.
I mean, you know what? Next week I'll preview Colorado overhyped. That's just a taste. Florida overhyped. Florida State overhyped.
What would Colorado have to do against Colorado State for you not to say that?
They would have to score like 100 points.
Because Colorado State's not a good team.
So if Colorado goes out and rushes for 350 yards, and throws 5 passes, and beats Colorado State 56-10, would you still say that?
If they do that, Saturday night we'll get on here and I will go ahead and say, hey, Dion, thanks for actually being a football coach.
That's it? Will you do it in your underwear?
Would I do my underwear? I'll do it topless.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's the same thing?
Yeah, pretty much.
Unless you're telling me you wear a bra? Or like, oh, you wear a wife
beater,
don't you?
I could.
You're a wife beater guy, aren't you?
Oh, no, buddy. I'm all natural. Belly.
Underneath? Okay.
Yeah.
You give
I'll
me
crop
Central
top.
PA
I'll crop top
wife
it.
beater.
I'll crop top it.
You crop top it in short shorts?
Crop top, short shorts, and high boots.
All right, let's do it. So Robert with the safest bet of the weekend right there.
Let's go ahead. There aren't a ton of big games. There's a couple teams. This is like a first week of buys for a couple people, like JMU, who's secretly 2-0. Keeping an eye on them with the new coach. Has an off. I think I said someone at Penn State has an off week. So not a ton of games. There are 2 ranked games this week. Which we're going to start with Arizona and Kansas State. Number 20 Arizona. I think they're going to Kansas State. I don't know. Listen,
yes, they're going.
Yeah,
okay. So the team on the right-hand side is the home team in this situation, just to let you know.
Cool. Thanks.
Yeah, so Arizona is going to Kansas State. Kansas State had a little trouble down in Louisiana, the Bayou, with Tulane. Kind of had a comeback, a 17-point comeback, I believe. They are number 14 in the land. They are hosting Arizona. This is Friday night, so you should be able to get this if Simeon does his job and posts this podcast on time. Arizona, new football coach. This year they got the guy from San Jose State. His name escapes me. Avery Johnson looking good right now. 4 touchdowns, only 1 interception.
Is that the guy from San Jose State?
No, that's their quarterback.
Okay.
I don't know the coach's name.
Okay, I'll look him up. I got you.
Okay. They're looking really good. Kansas State had almost 400 yards of offense, no turnovers. They had 26 time of possession, so Tulane did dominate them, but they had the turnovers. It's a winning culture there. I'm excited to see Kansas State get into the meat of this conference schedule and see if they can do this. Robert, is Kansas State your Big 12 champion? Were they your preseason, or was Kansas?
No, my Kansas.
You had Kansas, okay?
Yeah, of course they lose to Illinois, so that's
of course they. Hey,
great.
But they're still in it. But yeah,
all right.
This is also not a. I don't think this is a conference game. I think
it's not scheduled as one. I think.
Yeah, it is technically a conference game, but it's not going to count against the conference record. Exactly. So it's one of a few games like that this year. Utah and Baylor last week, that was a Big 12 matchup, but technically not a conference game that counted against conference record. I'm very excited for Avery Johnson and this Kansas State Wildcats team.
Real quick, Chris Kleiman, he was Carson Wentz's head coach at North Dakota State.
Yeah. Well, I asked for Arizona. I knew Chris Kleiman.
I'm so sorry. I am an idiot.
But yes, Robert, what excites you about Kansas State or even Arizona? I think a lot of people didn't expect them to be 2-0, but they got McMillan and they got that quarterback.
Well, that's the whole thing. Like,
their head coach is Brett Brennan.
Thank you.
I like Arizona. They came on hot at the end of the season last year. They rattled off 6 or 7 straight wins. I think they're going to give Kansas State some real issues. And the big thing is if Kansas State goes down, we'll say 10. Arizona's not a team to fall behind. Tulane kind of gave the game back to Kansas State, and really Kansas State should have lost that game. But between McMillan and was it Fifita, that's a very good dynamic duo of teams, or not teams, players. I actually think Arizona is going to upset Kansas State, even though I don't really consider a 2014 matchup like an upset. Not as enough things in between, but
if you go back to last season, Arizona's on a 9-game winning streak. That very possibly, and I'm pretty sure, is the longest winning streak in the nation right now.
I think it was Michigan.
Yeah, because it was Michigan. I think this 9-game winning streak Arizona's on
Isn't Georgia on a winning streak?
No,
right
Georgia lost to Alabama. Remember, right? So everyone who would have won lost to Michigan. So yeah, I think that this is a very interesting matchup. It's on Friday, 8 p.m., and they're all alone on Fox. Friday, 8 p.m. So a lot of people are going to see this game in action. This could be the game of the weekend sort of deal with how well these teams match up. But Avery Johnson, new quarterback. I'm just really excited for this Kansas State team because they could win the Big 12 championship again.
This isn't fully updated, but Arizona is the current winning streak. They have 9, I want to say, something like that, because this has Michigan at 15 and Clemson at 5. So it's a little old.
Yeah.
So you already said the time and where that's at, where you can go find it. So we're gonna head up. Boston College ranked, snuck in there. Didn't notice that the AP ranked Boston College. Bill O'Brien taking on number 6 Mizzu, who's just having a time. Down in Missouri, they're just out there. They're having fun. Interesting ranked on ranked matchup. Can Boston College do some damage here, Micaiah?
I want to say yes, but this just seems like they are just walking into a buzzsaw, and that's nothing against Boston College. That just has everything to do with Missouri. Missouri's still, as you said, Simeon, no one's really paying attention to them. Yes, they're ranked 6th. Yes, they had a good winning streak themselves to end the season. If you go back to last season, Missouri themselves, they are on a 7-game winning streak. So their winning ways haven't stopped since last season. I just think that this is going to be an SEC defense meets a team that doesn't like to throw the ball and likes to run the football. Boston College right now is 9th in the FBS with 284 rushing yards a game, but they're 101st in passing with 181 yards a game. I just think that Missouri is going to take away their running game and say, okay, beat us throwing the football, and I'm not sure that they can do that. Right now, this spread is 17. And honestly, this could be a 20-24 point game because Missouri's just, with Brady Cook, is just really, really good.
I am fully anticipating this game to be Boston College is going to be physical. We know that. We've seen that. They're going to put Missouri's defense to work. And what it's going to end up turning into is Missouri's going to throw the ball. Arthur Burden's going to have a day. They're going to air it out. They're not going to have to really worry about Boston College's defense. So Missouri's going to go up multiple scores, which is going to effectively take Boston College out of their game of just ground pound, wear you down.
Yep.
And it just puts them in a bad spot where it's not the kind of football they want to play. Boston College is they are very well built for the ACC. And I mean, honestly, they're built for the Big Ten with the way that they're playing football. But they're just not going to be made once they go down 7 and get stopped on on third down and have to punt. It's not. I don't want to say it's going to be over, but it's just going to be very hard for Boston College to like keep up in that track meet.
They're going to need multiple turnovers. Boston College is. They're going to need multiple turnovers from Missouri to stay in this thing. Missouri hasn't allowed any of their 2 opponents, yes, Murray State and Buffalo, I get it, to score yet this season. But they are top 40 in both passing and rushing yards per game. So they're very balanced. And when a balanced team goes up against an unbalanced team with a good defense and a big defensive line, it screams disaster on multiple levels.
A little quick fun game that we haven't been doing.
But now that we said that, Boston College is going to cover and possibly win the game. Just
probably, yeah. That's normally how that goes.
10.
Yeah.
A fun game that we played last year that was just fun was cheapest tickets according to ESPN.com and most expensive tickets. I did the research. I did the hard diving. I took the time. The most expensive ticket is, unfortunately, for a game that we're no longer allowed to talk about until they run the ball. The cheapest ticket is tied currently. Do we want to hazard a guess, gentlemen, what the cheapest ticket is? And it's not what you would expect.
I know exactly. I know which one you're going to say. So,
well, it's got to be some team that a low-ranking group of 5 team.
Not.
They're out of Virginia.
That's one of them.
Is it JMU? The JMU game? No? They're out of Virginia?
Is
Robert, it Virginia?
Which is the one you're looking at?
I have Georgia Tech versus VMI.
Versus Virginia Military Institute. Very racist institution, but, we won't hold that against them. I'll give him my fun fact after this because that makes him sound real bad.
And then Toledo, Mississippi State.
Yeah, $4. Two big names, especially for Georgia Tech with how well they're doing. For the record, sorry, VMI is not currently a racist institution. Their entire 1863 graduating class fought in the Civil War, and it was Virginia, so not for the North. So that's just why I'm saying that.
Georgia Tech lost to Syracuse on Saturday, and I just want it known that Kyle McCord is currently leading the nation in touchdown passes. So maybe Ohio State fans got a little overzealous. Dude, my favorite thing would be if Syracuse wins the ACC and the quarterback for Ohio State messes it up and he doesn't. Dude, that would be so vindication.
Sometimes it just takes a change of scenery. Also, new coach in Syracuse probably helps. I don't know who they got. I knew it was
Fran Brown, I think his name is.
Is that it?
Georgia's secondary coach. He's from that area. Played at Syracuse, homegrown kid sort of deal.
Got it. So it works. Sometimes it's just the pressure gets to you. Also, I was thinking Vanderbilt, not Georgia Tech. Those freaking colors always confuse the crap out of me. All right, let's talk about 2 of the rivalries real quick, and I want to start with the Civil War, which they can't call it that anymore, but Oregon State. These are protected rivalries for these 2 teams. The other one's the Apple Cup. Spoiler, that's what we're talking about next, but I want to talk about Oregon. Oregon State, Washington State, both been trying to keep their head above water. So far has succeeded. I mean, granted, we're at week 3, so it's not that much. But we want to talk about Oregon State. Micaiah, with how Oregon's been playing, are we thinking this game's going to be a problem for them given it's a rivalry?
I definitely think it could be. Yeah. I don't think offensively it will. I think Oregon's going to walk out and have over 400 yards of offense yet again or close to it. It's just going to be turnovers and it's going to be smart. They've done everything well offensively except turn the ball over and go for it in their own end. And then defensively, Dan Lanning, can you get your guys to actually show up here? Technically, this is a Big Ten Pac-12 matchup because technically the Pac-12 is still around and still a conference. Oregon State is rebuilding their whole team. Jonathan Smith left, went to Michigan State, took their quarterback, took their running back, went down to Miami. So, yeah, I think a problem. It shouldn't be a problem. This should be the spread right now, 16.5. It should be. However, I would feel very confident betting the plus 16.5 for Oregon State just with how this season started, especially on the defensive side of the ball for the Ducks.
Yeah, if there's one thing that we know about Oregon State, it's Oregon State always plays very good defense when they play Oregon. And Oregon always seems to try and shoot themselves in the foot when they play Oregon or Oregon State. One of the two. I don't know. They're both from Oregon. They always struggle against each other. But, I mean, Oregon should walk into this game, put a beating on them, and leave. The game shouldn't be close, but it's going to because it's a rivalry and it doesn't matter how good they are at that moment because the rivalry games are always played so much differently with the amount of emotion and stuff. But if Oregon comes into this game and struggles the way they have the first two games, I mean, at that point, I guess your panic meter kind of has to go a lot higher because now it's kind of like, well, what's really the issue? Maybe they go and not get rid of, but maybe you put Dante Moore in at quarterback or something. I don't know.
Oh, that's it.
That's it.
Oh yeah, that was it. Yeah, there's not like
nothing else to say.
That's on me. Oregon State transferred in Giovanni, I would assume is how you pronounce it, McCoy. No relation to the famous McCoy that I'm forgetting. He came from Idaho. But also, I want to know for the record, Oregon State has played Idaho State and San Diego State so far. So it's not necessarily, this is their first real game. Also, the state of Oregon really beat up on Idaho because Oregon's first game was against Idaho. So Oregon and Oregon State both took on Idaho schools and won. Very much so. Let's go on over to the Apple Cup. Washington State. Washington State with some more impressive wins, quote unquote, taking on Portland State, beating them 70-30, and Texas Tech 37-16. So this game I feel might be a little bit closer. Both these games are on 3:30, one on Fox, one on Peacock. Micaiah, I don't know if you've been paying attention to Washington. I think this is the more likely of the two to be an upset, quote unquote.
Yeah, I didn't realize that Washington State was a 4.5 point dog, and they took on Texas Tech and they routed Texas Tech last weekend. This game also isn't technically at home for Washington. It's in Seattle at Lumen Field, which is the home of the Seattle Seahawks. So the fact that Washington State's actually between the two is the one who's played the real team. Yeah, that 4.5, love that. Might change my locks. Definitely will be betting that on Saturday. John Mateer's been excellent. He's only thrown 1 interception, 6 touchdowns, almost 500 yards at this point. Will Rogers slinging that rock around, 5 touchdowns, no interceptions for the Huskies as well. Which team is going to be more balanced? Yes, FPI gives the predictor to Washington, but the fact that Washington State has already played Texas Tech, yes, at home. They're not leaving the state of Washington. They're not even at Washington. They're in Seattle at the home of that stadium or the Seahawks stadium. This is going to be a real interesting game. I think it's going to be a lot closer than what people think. As Jed Fish kind of tries to figure out Washington and get his kind of culture revved up there.
This game very well could be the game of the weekend. And I will tell you that probably maybe a quarter of the population will actually watch this game.
This could be a lock of a game no one would watch. I would accept that. Yeah,
it's on Peacock too, so you got to stream it.
That is the main reason why I think no one is going to end up watching it, with it being on Peacock. But this game should be a barn burner of a game. It should be a physical, close game. These two teams, they're essentially almost the same team. Like, statistically looking at these teams, they're pretty close. I mean, Will Rogers is still playing clean, hasn't thrown a pick yet. Both running backs, almost identical stats. Like, this game.
Actually, how do you pronounce Washington's?
What, Mateer? Oh, Washington.
Mateer?
Well, Mateer's Washington State. Yeah,
John Mateer. Sorry. He actually leads the team in rushing. Right now.
Yes, he does.
Yeah. So, I don't know enough about Washington yet, and I don't know enough about Washington State because, again, two West Coast teams, they get the Pac-12 treatment, even though Washington is in the Big 12 or Big 10. You just don't see their games, and then you're not going to see another game because it's going to be on Peacock. So you're going to know nothing about this team unless you take the time to watch Peacock away from everything else you're trying to watch.
Washington State, 50th in passing yards, 15th in rushing yards. When was the last time you could say that about a Washington State team? This is very... Washington State should be a team everyone keep their eye on.
I'm not gonna lie, guys, to the fans listening or to the listeners. We kind of didn't know what other games to watch. There's not that many other big games and to tell you guys to watch. So we picked Alabama, Wisconsin. I think Wisconsin's traveling to them. If I'm not.
Nope. Bama's on the road this week at Camp Randall.
The bounce house. Let's go, baby. It's not the bounce house, but
not the bounce house. It's jump around house.
Yeah. But they're again another home underdog this week is Wisconsin, Micaiah.
Yeah, big time underdog. 16 points. Listen, Luke Fickell's gonna have a stingy defense. He has so far this season. They haven't given up over 14 points. Yes to Western Michigan. Yes to South Dakota State or whoever they played. Not South Dakota State. I don't even know who. The South Dakota is just South Dakota Coyotes. Listen, with how Bama's kind of gotten off to slow starts, especially last week at home, now this is a true road game. Walking into an environment, Camp Randall is going to be sold out. Yes, it's Jalen Milroe. Yes, it's high power. Yes, they're not turning the ball over. Yes, the Crimson Tide are tops in they're 13th in rushing, 63rd in passing, but they're still trying to get things together offensively. Luke Fickell's going to have a good defensive plan with that. And let's look at Wisconsin. They're 89th in passing and 51st in rushing. So they're balanced-ish as well on offense. I think it's a lot closer than 16 points for most of the game. And then maybe Bama pulls away like they did at home against South Florida. But this is a good road test. And you're going to find out a lot about year 2, Luke Fickell and the Wisconsin Badgers, as well as year 1, Alabama under Kalen DeBoer, and whether the Tide are true college football playoff contenders.
Big thing for Wisconsin is don't fall into the lure of Alabama trap. Just if they play the way Wisconsin has historically played with that stifling defense, and if they control the clock, this game becomes a lot closer than 16 because it would essentially be the exact same as when Alabama played Michigan in the Rose Bowl. Michigan took their time and they took the clock away from Alabama. They made Alabama make every possession count. If Wisconsin can do this, Wisconsin might be able to upset Alabama, but I think Alabama just has a little too much juice for the old Badgers.
Dude, that 17-year-old super frosh they got in Ryan Williams, he's special, man. Everyone's talking about Jeremiah Smith from Ohio State, rightfully so. This kid is special, though. Ryan Williams for Alabama. He does not look 17.
They grow them differently down there, I hear. All right, let's make our picks, and then we'll head to the locks of the week. Let's go ahead and start at the top. Number 20 takes Arizona takes on Kansas State with a little bit of a rough patch there. I think they actually got upset last week.
Only because this game's at home. Am I taking Kansas State?
I'm going Arizona.
Yeah, I'm going to take Kansas State. I don't know. Because I just want to be different than Robert. Number 24, Boston College, taking on number 6, Mizzu.
I think that this game gets out of hand in the second half, and I think Mizzu pulls away, and this is an easy dub for Mizzu. So I'm taking the Tigers.
Yeah, there's just too much fun coming from Missouri. Missouri's going to run away with it.
I don't think they're going to run away with it. I think they're going to win. Shout out Dark Missouri, SEC roll call. But I think Boston College is going to cover, but I still pick Mizzou outright. I've realized I have to be the one transitioning. Number 9, Oregon, in the Civil War, Oregon State. I'm going to take Oregon. I just don't think they're going to have it together here. Micaiah.
I'm also going to go with Oregon. Yes, it's on the road. I mean, we'll see. At the end of this day, are they going to be a team that's going to be in all these one-score games like TCU, and then last year like Bama and like Washington, they were in all these one-score games, but they always pulled them out? Or are they going to actually blow some teams out like their offense can and their defense should? But I'm going to go with the Ducks until proven otherwise.
So this is a 3:30 Eastern. What's that, noontime for them?
Yep.
If it was a night game at Oregon State, I would say probably Oregon State. But noon game, Oregon's gonna. I think this is the game Oregon kind of comes out and figures it out.
Alrighty. So Oregon State's going to win that game. Washington, home, quote, against Washington State, end quote. Guys, I have Washington State upsetting here. Washington.
I actually agree with you. I didn't realize that Washington State played Texas Tech. I didn't realize that Washington played no one. And I didn't realize that this game was not at a true home game for Washington. I am taking the Cougars to represent the Tupac and beat Big Ten on Saturday.
Yeah, give me Washington. I don't think either way you're wrong. Like you can't really be wrong making a pick with these because they're literally the same team. So, I mean, just for continuity's sake, I'm going to say I'm taking Washington.
Well, they're not. They're different colors. So, gosh, Robert. Alabama, Wisconsin. Again, this was there was another game that there was a home underdog. But one of the things I wanted to say, the Boston College, Missouri game, which we already covered. Yeah, the Boston College, Missouri game is on the SEC network at 12:45, which makes that an 11:45 local game.
Mm-hmm.
I get they didn't have the wherewithal to know that Boston College was going to be a team, but can someone explain to me the time on that game?
They do this a lot, especially in the central time zones. They'll do like a noon kickoff, but it'll be an 11 a.m. kick. Northwestern gets that a lot. They'll do a noon kickoff, but it's actually 11 a.m. local. And Kirk Herbstreit always says 11 a.m. Local kick, sleepy time to kick. In terms of Alabama, Wisconsin, though, which also is an 11 a.m. kick, I believe.
Yes, it is.
I'm going to take Alabama. Just too much firepower. I think this game is a lot closer than the current spread because this is Alabama in a road-tested or in a road environment, in a sold-out jump-around house. So I'm going to go with Bama.
This game would be a lot tougher if Wisconsin was playing at home at like 9-10 o'clock at night, where it was a night game and they were jumping around. But Alabama, they have too much. Like, the team's pretty loaded, and they kind of are figuring themselves out. So I'm going to take the old Tide.
Roll Tide. Did Wisconsin win their other games so far this year? I haven't.
Yeah,
even
they're
seen what
they're
Luke
they're
Fickell's-
2-0, but they haven't
what Luke
played
Fickell has
anyone.
done.
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't think so, but I just wanted to check before we did anything too serious here. All right, so to keep track and just to remind everybody, the locks of the week is what we're taking serious. It's 3 bets that we're giving to you. They are our locks. So far, you are losing money with me. I am 1-5. Robert is in second, and there he's 2-4. I went 0-3 last week. Robert went 1-2, and that makes Brochacho, Captain Boring himself, 5-1, 3-0 last week.
That's what you get.
I just really hurt myself.
That's what you get.
Micaiah's gonna be in pain for a second. Go do stairs because Robert can't, so that might help.
Oh,
run it off.
wow.
For those
I thought
of
I
you,
just tore my UCL. Ow, that really hurts. At least I'm making money, you loser. L7 weenie.
Keep up that energy come week 12.
So
and you're 9 games below 500.
Yes.
Will do, bud.
Okay, so now that Micaiah and Robert are done trash talking, loser of this bet takes on championship week, i.e. week 13 or week 14, depending on how it is. The podcast, they have to do it in their underwear. So far, that's me. Let's be honest. I'm the one you want in the underwear. I do a podcast in his underwear energy. I've thought about it multiple times.
That's true.
Not gonna lie. Carrie is 7-3 over on Instagram at 4th-and-1 pod. Again, no one knows how. This is just what she does. So in reality, go over to our Instagram, 4th-and-1 pod, make those bets. You're gonna win some money.
On TikTok as well. Yeah.
Oh, and on TikTok as well. 4th-and-1 pod. No cast on the end of that one. All right, Micaiah. As always, you have 5 on here.
Yeah.
It's a game time decision.
Yeah.
I know. Captain Boring. Pick one of them and tell me it.
All right. I'm going to go with LSU and South Carolina. The over-under is 50.5. Listen, South Carolina's defense really impressed me. Absolutely, they did. LSU's defense, better. Don't believe in 2 things. Don't believe in LSU's offense to be consistent, and I don't believe in South Carolina's offense to be able to score on a solid SEC defense. So give me the under of 50.5 on this game. It is also at South Carolina. They're going to try to run the ball, muck up the game, and let that 5-star Super Frosh come out the end and get Garrett Nussmeier. So give me the under
Is
of
Frosh
50.5.
freshman, sophomore?
Freshman.
So you said Super Frosh.
Yeah, it's something Joe Tessitore said when Tariq Black was a true freshman at Michigan and they played Florida and he caught this touchdown. He said touchdown for the Super Frosh, and I recently watched that highlight, and so here we are.
Wow, what a nerd. Okay, I'm breaking my own rule. I didn't even see this on your list. I am also taking the LSU South Carolina game. However, I'm not taking the under. I'm taking LSU -6.5. So LSU to cover against South Carolina. Like I said last week, Garrett Nussmeier, great last name. Really want to call him Nutmeyer though.
Nice.
I think he's going to be a finalist for the Heisman if he keeps playing like he did against USC. I think they're going to come out angry. I think they're going to come out. I think they're going to win, and I think they're going to win by at least a touchdown. Give me LSU -6.5 against South Carolina. Robert.
Yeah. So here's what it is. I'm probably going to go 0-3 this week. Okay,
let's go.
These are some. I'm just being real.
Okay.
So yeah, I'm going Friday night. You know, we're going to go Kansas UNLV. Kansas is a 7-point favorite. I'm going Kansas +7 to beat UNLV, and the more, or are they -7?
They would have to be -7. I can't imagine
Kansas -7.
Okay.
You know me. Like I said, I'm going 0-3 this week. Until I looked at UNLV and I saw that they've just been blowing. They beat Houston and they just blew out like Utah Tech or whatever they are. But you know what? Yeah, Jalen Daniels going to figure it out. He might only throw 1 or 2 interceptions this week, but they're going to win by 10. So yeah.
Jalen Daniels. Micaiah, go from your bag of games.
Well, yeah, I need to know, do you guys classify Memphis, Florida State as a game no one would watch or no?
Well, here's the deal. Okay, you bring up a very valid question. Mike Norvell, old team. I had this. I didn't want to take this game. But you have App State, Eastern Carolina, which is more of a game no one would want to watch. I'll allow both. I'll leave it up to Robert.
Yeah, I'd probably say no one would watch it. I don't know. Yeah, go for it.
Okay.
You're gonna lose that if you take that 8.5.
Oh, well, I'm taking the 8. I'm going Memphis 8. I have no faith in Florida State, considering Memphis is
I read that
team.
wrong. Sorry.
Yeah, okay.
Take Memphis at 8.
I'm taking Memphis plus 8 to cover against Florida State. They might win outright. And then the panic meter is off the charts for Florida State, and Mike Norvell might be fired by week 5. I just think that, yes, Florida State had a week off. Yes, they will be regrouped. But Memphis is a team, is a strong together. They have a veteran quarterback as well that threw for 1,000,000 yards last year. They're going to come in, and unless if Florida State can fix that effort along the defensive line, Memphis is just going to run the football, and they should. So give me Memphis plus 8 against Florida State.
Yeah, I forgot. This is Ryan Silverfield, who went to Hampton, Sydney, for those of you who remember that.
Yeah, let's go.
Yeah, that's a good call, Makai. I wasn't sure because I feel like Mike Norvell could come out and finally get the team cooking. For the record, I don't think he will. But
even if they win, I think it's close.
That pick was on my radar. But what I took instead for my game no one's going to watch is also a Friday night game, Robert. Shout out. But it is Arizona State at Texas State. I'm going to take the over 59.5.
Texas State can score. That's a good over.
Texas State can score. That was one of my losses. I thought a very, very good air raid UTSA offense was going to keep it within 2 points, and they did not. They got run over by Texas State. And a dude named Jordan McLeod, who you might know from great hits as his 2018 to 2020 season at South Florida, and then 2021 and 2022 season at Arizona, followed by a superb 2023 season at James Madison. So that's where this guy came of. That's why Texas Tech is just throwing the ball around. They're just flicking that bean, getting it out there, zipping it. I think it's going to be an easy, I think it's going to be an easy 30-30 sort of game. I'm hoping, at least. Robert.
Yeah, my game that no one is going to watch. Buffalo versus
UMass. The trash ball, baby.
Oh, yes, ladies and gentlemen, if you want to have a snooze fest and want to wonder what you are doing with your life, you definitely tune into this game because Buffalo is a minus 4.5 point favorite. That is why I'm taking Buffalo minus 4.5. If you take the time to watch this game, you also need to think about what you are doing with your life.
That's true.
I will, if you comment in the comments down below, I will Venmo you $5. This is good up until next Friday, which is, sorry, I have to pull up my calendar, whatever the frick that day in September is, the 19th. I will Venmo you $5 if you watch this game.
Oh, okay. In its entirety.
In its entirety. Yep. 100%.
Yep. And we're going to need proof as well before people on the internet say, yes, I watched the whole game and now Simeon's out $1 million. We're going to need proof. DM. Sorry, we're going to change it instead of comment down below. You got to comment and DM us 4th and 1 Podcast Instagram. There it is. All right. Finally, listen, I said that Florida, don't panic. Don't panic. It's all right. Through the first 2 games, you get run out of the building. Don't panic unless if you lose big. Then you need to panic and fire everyone. Well, guess what? They're going to need to panic and fire everyone because I have Texas A&M minus 4 here. A&M's going on the road. I like the culture that my dude, his name, Mike Elko, has instilled on Texas A&M. I'm telling our good buddy Jared not to panic. The culture's there. The offense will come. The defense is just, Mike Elko's defense is always going to be good. It's going to shut down Florida. Like Lagway, a true freshman, he's not going to know what to do. Then they put Graham Mertz in, and he's somehow a downgrade, even though he started more. Give me Texas A&M minus 4 in the swamp, full panic, and we might be leading the show next week with Billy Napier has been fired.
I'm going to go up to Camp Randall and take Wisconsin plus 15.5 against Alabama. I think Alabama's going to win this game. I just don't think it's going to be as close. Wisconsin is not, Luke Fickell's a good coach. Wisconsin is not USF. And so give me Wisconsin plus 15.5 against Alabama.
Yeah. Here we go. My final pick to go 0-3. Georgia versus Kentucky.
Oh, let's go, baby.
Georgia is a 24-point favorite.
You doing it?
Georgia's winning by 56.
Yeah. I'm actually going to bet that later as well. Yes.
Give me the dogs.
Yeah.
Plus the points.
No, that would be the Cats
Minus
plus
the points.
There
I'm sorry.
you go.
You want the minus
Yes.
the points?
Yeah.
Yes.
Minus 24.
Minus 20, just 24 straight.
Yes.
That's what it's at right now.
That's
All
what
right,
it's at.
straight, just like we are. Guys, that's been the 4th and 1 podcast for this week. We've kept it relatively short for you. See you again next week. Again, like, comment, subscribe down below if you made it this far. Thank you so much. We'll see you next week.
Wash your hands, you filthy animal.